Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon for our monthly flagship interaction, the Diplomat Diaries. And this session is very special because we are doing a roundtable on Latin America with two ambassadors from the region with us this afternoon. And we hope that this conversation not only touches upon the bilateral relationships between India and Chile and India and Argentina, but also touches upon some of the larger themes that as a community of people who are interested in international politics at this particular point in time, we are all interested in. So with that, let me invite His Excellency Juan Angulo, Ambassador of Chile to India, and His Excellency Mariano A, Caucino, Ambassador of Argentina to India, on the dais, please. Thank you, Excellencies, for taking time out for this session. And I will, before I invite the two ambassadors for their initial and opening remarks, let me also warmly welcome you all who have taken time out and to come here and enrich this discussion, which hopefully will even also the question and answers will lead to perhaps more thinking on and more introspection on how this relationship is going. But this is also a very interesting moment, perhaps as we are looking at the world in Latin America, a region that had seemed to have largely settled into state conflict and seemed to have become more immune to great power competition. We are looking once again a return to great power competition, major power competition there against a context of polarization and of course economic competition that is now part of the larger global reality across geographies. What is also interesting is that the US is shifting or at least seems to be suggesting that there's going to be greater focus on Western hemispheric affairs, including homeland defense, border enforcement, and counter-drug operations. All of this will have implications for how the countries in the region view their relationships with the wider world, but also will have implications for India Latin America relations. I think what is also interesting at this point is India's own engagement with the region, with this particular geography has grown. This has always used to be a complaint that this India Latin America always on the threshold of potential but never reaching that potential. I think we are today at a stage where we can genuinely say that a number of ways in which India and Latin America are engaging and interacting with each other can have profound consequences for this relationship going forward at a number of levels. So before we proceed with specific questions and queries, let me invite the two excellencies on the dais for their initial remarks. First off will be Excellency Angulo and there'll be he'll be speaking via PowerPoint, which you can use and you can see through the two screens on which you can see and we can't, but that's how it's going to be. But Excellency, over to you.
Thank you very much, Professor Pant. Thank you very much for all for you to be here today with us. I would like to greet especially my colleagues from the region, outside the region, who are here today, and on the interest of everybody to hear about Chile, country, and the region, Latin America, as we can have this vision from two different countries, but well, we share a lot of things in common. I will start first with a small some reflection, some information about the region. And then I will go specifically on Chile. I have some information to share with you, but you all know many things on international relations, so I will go a little faster on that to allow more time for questions. But I would like to highlight a couple of things from my presentation on the bilateral relation. First, on why sometimes the bilateral relations develop the way they develop. We have to know something about particular countries. Something that I would like to say immediately is that Latin America and the Caribbean is not a homogeneous region. Every country has different, some similarities, of course, but many countries have different aspirations, possibilities, engagements, interests. And sometimes some make the mistake of thinking that one size fits all policy will fit okay in the region. That's not the case. I will just first start with the first image. Should be the region, no? A map there. Okay. So very quickly, the region is 33 countries. This is the population, the PGB per capita, more or less, is more than 10,000. These are numbers, estimation from the International Monetary Fund. And you can see there are common cultural and historical background, but great diversity. And that is something also that we have seen in the last days, a new development between two countries that is happening, these things happening in our region. And I don't know if that will affect or not, but it is something to take into consideration when you try to see the region as a whole. We have a great variety of natural resources, a huge biodiversity, climates, populations. The structure politically, the structure is the CELAC, which is the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, but there are subgroups. There is, for instance, Pacific Alliance, there is Mercosur, SICA, CARICOM, and all of these groups have different interests. And they are conform the way they are because their particular interests as well. Anybody trying to create a policy with the region should take that into consideration. Second, please. So there is a quick recognition of India by many of our countries. Many of the countries established diplomatic relations many years ago. There is a difficulty in the people-to-people contacts. Of course, the distance is there. We cannot say that we are close. We cannot have the same kind of relationship that maybe India has with ASEAN, with India has with Africa, or even Europe. We have a lot of difficulties in logistics. We have a lot of difficulties in knowing each other, despite all the efforts that we have been doing in the last time. I have some figures about the numbers of Latin American and Caribbean as a market for Indian products. You will see the numbers there. It is interesting. The total trade reached 35 billion. The idea a couple of years ago was to reach 55 and 100 million of exchange. Of course, this is not evenly distributed. 5-6 countries of the region will take most of the trade. That is something also we have to tackle. The region can be a source for India for strategic materials, commodities, investment opportunities, pharma, for services. There is a huge amount of potentiality. Also, we can partner in the global agenda, no? In cross-cutting subjects like climate, recovery post-COVID, reinforced multilateralism. That is also one area of common work, common interest of both countries. And of course, we belong to the so-called Global South, which is something that in itself could give time for a huge discussion. I would like to mention that sometimes we say that India was not looking at our region, and it was very simple and facts only. You consider the last visit in a bilateral way that the Prime Minister, before the visit of Prime Minister Modi, but I will just say that during 50 years, no Prime Minister of India went to our region for a bilateral visit. And 50 years is more or less 2 generations. So somebody grew up, finished study, and then grew up again, finished studies, and no visit of Prime Minister of India to the region. Last one in that period was Indira Gandhi in 1968. And we appreciate and we value very much the efforts that in the last year has been done by India in open eyes to our region. We think that India realized that the importance that the region may have for India, the opportunities that are there, and we are very pleased to see the trips of Prime Minister Jai Shankar. Couple of times, 8 times sometimes in the last 2 years to the region. Prime Minister Modi went to Brazil, went to Argentina in a bilateral, also in countries in the Caribbean, has received the influence, the visits of authorities. The opening of embassies. India opened recently embassies in in countries like Paraguay, like the Dominican Republic, recently now Bolivia, recently Ecuador, and the news are in Uruguay waiting. We are waiting for that. Not some countries are not there still, but in the last years we have seen an interest that has been reciprocated by our region. 3 or 4 years ago, Jamaica opened an embassy here. Recently, Honduras has done. St. Kitts and Nevis also. So we are a group of 22 countries already present here, and that is showing that there is a common interest, and we must work on that. So enough for now for the region. I will just speak a little about Chile, of course. Next, please, is Chile in figures, should be there. Very quickly, that is the country. I'm sure that many of you know exactly, but just to take a quick recap on what it is. Social indicators are very positive. Next, please. And then you should have the trade exchange, no? 75%. That means that the country is extremely open to economy. And I am interested in talking about this because that will explain the relationship bilaterally with India. We have 33 trade agreements with 65 economies. And we had, in the past, our main destination of exports was Europe. Now it's Asia. Next, please. Before, I would like also to very quickly summarize for you some of the development strategy of the last decades that Chile have followed. And if we have had some success in this, is that we haven't changed every time policies when we change governments. And the continuous governments, right, left, center right, center left, extreme left, had been building up on what it was done before. So all the very good results that we have had in the social sphere are many are a result of this continuity. And you can see there economy open to foreign trade, social market economy, individual freedom, macroeconomic stability, independence of central bank, counter-cyclical fiscal policy, in fact, many things that are of interest to know why we have been consistently doing this in the last decades. Next, there is a map there covering our free trade agreements, our commercial agreements. You can see is near 90% of global GDP. Our export markets are almost all covered. 94% with agreements. This is not exactly updated. We are finishing with Indonesia, Philippines are there also in the map. Morocco has been initiated as a negotiation. Next, please. You have main exports. This is the position that the country has as main, second, and third. At world level of these different products. You can see there is a lot of mining products, agri products, and we have been trying to increase, of course, our position in this. If you see now, next please, the data between Chile and India, it is also important to see that the relationship, it is not equal in terms of size, in terms of level of the economy, exports, and different macroeconomic variables. You see we're less than the amount of people than we have in Delhi, but per capita our exports is quite high in relation to India. And if you see the size of the economy is export is more or less half, more than half, more than 70%. So we are a very open economy that makes us very also vulnerable to changes in international trade and regulations. Next, please. You will see that many people don't know, but in fact our relations are very old. Even well before India as an independent state, we have histories, records of trades in between Valparaiso and Chile with ships already in 1820, and since many years we have been had a different kind of relationships. I just put our consul in Kolkata, Augusto Dalmar, in 1908, was a National Prize of Literature. Some visits of Pablo Neruda, but this is just an example of what we have been doing with India since the very beginning, since the inception of India as an independent state. We could send a special delegate for the ceremony of independence, and we have we had diplomatic relations since April 49. First embassy in 56. Next, please. The first visit was of a Chilean Minister of Foreign Affairs was Osvaldo Sanmarí. It was in 57. But in 56, we already had signed an agreement, a commercial agreement with India. I think, I'm not sure, but I think that was one of the first agreements that India, in commerce, that India signed. And that was more than 60 years ago, or 50 years ago. It's a long time. The first visit of Indira Gandhi, as I mentioned, and in 95 and then 2018, we just signed these two mechanisms of dialogue. And the Joint Commission at the level of Ministers of Foreign Affairs have two types taken place. Next, please. We had three visits of Indian presidents to Chile and three visits of Chilean presidents to India in the last years. The first one was in 95. President Dayan Sharma, and then Devi Singh Patil visited the country, and then Mr. Ricardo Lagos and Michelle Bachelet came back. President Nat Kovin to Chile, different meetings on foreign affairs, Joint Commission and Second Joint Commission. We have political consultations. In fact, the 9th round of political consultations will take place next week in Santiago with a delegation of India. And different meetings at high level have been, happening in the last years. And of course, the visit to India of President Boric in April this year. That is the last one. Next one, please. We have had a very big number of delegations at all levels in the recent years, and I try to put there one of the areas of what we are talking to India. There is many. So astronomy, agriculture, agribusiness, innovation, Antarctic, startup. The memorandum in Antarctica was signed with the visit of the president. Science and technology, transport, film industry, energy, aquaculture. Many areas of course, not all have the same level of development. Some are more advanced, some are less advanced, but we are talking. We have a dialogue with India, and I think that is very important for countries like Chile that are far away, small countries. I think Chile has the same problem that many countries that size have in India, and it is the capacity to exist, to be noticed, to be known by Indian authorities. Not only, I'm not talking about only Indian exporters, but media, people from the academia. It is difficult because there is a competition is very high. So every country is looking for ways to singularize themselves. And in our case, we find that all these subjects, that there are different levels of development, are important. The Indian community in Chile is very small. It's between 2,000 2,500 people. So we cannot count on these people-to-people contacts to get Chile known in India through the diaspora. If you follow the bilateral trade, these are the numbers. The last I have is from June this year. If you can see that the projection is quite interesting to reach a total trade of, we hope, around 4,000 billion, where Chilean exports will be around 2 to 500 billions and the imports will be 1.5. So it is a lot of trade for a country which is very far away. And that is something that we should also recognize, that potential is still there. We need to next, please. We need to increase our level of trade, These are main imports from India, main export to India. Of course, looking up from Chile. So in a way, the India-Chile trade reflects more or less what India with Chile has as a in general trade with the world. We are a mining country, so 40% of our exports are from the mining sector, and of course the rest are fresh fruits, fresh products from the agro industry. A lot of agro business industry. So we are planning to be part of the India security chain in some verticals, like food security chain, like raw materials, like materials security chain, services security chain. Despite of the size of the country, many companies have the headquarters in Santiago. For instance, Tata Consultancy Services, the headquarters are in Santiago, and Mahindra also. Several Indian companies are there. Next, please. India has a lot of potential. In Chile, is a main supplier. If you can see that, many products we have been. The economy is very open, so we don't have any problem in buying the best from the trade-off between quality and price should be competitive. And you can see there is a lot of products where India is number one. And we don't have problems with that in terms of we also would like to increase our products here in just to finish, I will mention that next about this PTA expansion. This is the agreement that we signed with India in 2006. So far, we are the only Latin American Caribbean country having a bilateral agreement with India. And we signed it in 2006. So we have 15 years of experience on working with India through these joint commissions and things like that. And now together with Peru, of course, we are in the trade in the phase of finishing of negotiating what we call a CEPA, Comprehensive Economic Trade Agreement, Partnership Agreement. The second round of negotiations took place this week in Santiago. It was very successful. And we are planning for the third in Delhi. We have been working inter-season, inter negotiations in the meantime. So we have confidence that we could finish this agreement in due time, which I suppose will be this year or beginning next year. I don't know. We don't know how we'll go. So I just wanted to give you a huge ideas about what the country is, why we are emphasizing what we are emphasizing with India, what is our position. The commonalities with India are there. Multilateralism, for instance, we support India's aspiration for a Security Council permanent member, seat of Security Council. We agreed, we have the same idea that the multilateral system should be more accountable, should reflect the realities of our time and not the realities of time ago, and they should be more participative, more inclusive. All of these factors will give legitimacy to the system, which now is under a little pressure. No, the legitimacy of the United Nations system. So I'll be happy to respond to any questions that you may have, and I hope that I gave an impression of what we are doing, in which areas we are doing. And again, these not all the areas are working at the same speed, but most of them are pretty much in a very good way to further develop our relationship with India. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I want to thank Orf for this invitation to Professor Harsh, and also to thank especially the presence here of, I think, 10 of our colleagues from ambassadors, mainly from Latin America and Caribbean region and other regions of the world. So thank you very much. I will be extremely brief because I didn't know that I had to make a presentation, but I will take this opportunity to facilitate more time for the conversation. Of course, as it was mentioned here by the ambassador of Chile, Latin America and Caribbean, let's say, that region of the world is extremely far away. It is a region that comprehends only the 5% of the population of the world, while Asia represents 60% of the population of the world. Our region is only 5%, including a huge country as Brazil, no? But only 5%. And we represent only 3% of the GDP of the world, while Asia is 40% of the population of the world. But that reality offers a great degree of complementarity between the two regions. And I think the recent years have been showing a mutual interest from our countries to India and from India to our countries. And the visits of heads of government, heads of state to this country, and from Indian government and the Indian leadership to some of our countries, it's a very positive representation of that feeling. At the same way, I want to congratulate the Indian government, because in these recent days they announced, and I think they already opened embassy, for example, in Ecuador. I think they are doing the same with Uruguay soon, and other countries that are still lacking an Indian embassy there. So I think it's very positive, that development. I will stop here, and then if there are questions, of course, I will be happy to answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Excellencies, for your opening remarks. And I think some of the things that came out in both, one of the things that came out in both the remarks is that India and Latin America are really making an effort. Because this was a relationship, as was mentioned, often has been at the mercy of distance. We have often talked about distance being a problem, but I think that argument in some ways also no longer sustains itself, given how far we have come and the opportunities that lie in the relationship. Let me briefly touch upon a few aspects and perhaps ask both of you to respond before I open this up for the audience. One, of course, is the question about major power politics and how that is impacting the world. And given that you are a neighbor of the US, of course, the Trump presidency, I think it would be interesting to hear from you how Latin America as a region is both engaging and managing this particular moment in American politics, but also I think related to this is this issue of seeming great power competition that is increasing. How is it impacting the region and in particular your own countries, and how are you planning to navigate some of the challenges that come with this competition?
Thank you very much, Professor Pant. Yeah, it's interesting questions and very from our days, no? Because it's very. This is something that it will not affect, I think, all the countries in the same way. Again, for the differences that we have. In our case, in the case of Chile, the country opened the economy 45 years ago. We decided unilaterally to fix a flat tariff of 6%, except for one or two products. So we have been doing that since many years. So nobody can accuse the country to be protectionist, because we are not. That's why when the measures came, we were in the bucket, the low bucket. Then some particular tariffs or ideas were proposed to tax, for instance, copper. You may know copper is for us very important. We have 40% of our exports copper. So the decision was to discuss and have these conversations, as many countries, with the administration, the new American administration. And we have been doing this in the last 2 months. So we had not, the projections are difficult as for everybody, but so far we have been, in the negotiation process. And Chile is a small country. Many of the Latin American countries are small countries in terms of they have no impact in economic, world economy or even in world politics. So we are takers of what is done abroad. And it is difficult to navigate because we don't want to be, you have to choose one or two That is something that we are not. That is not our approach. We need to take the best of the situation. We need to see where are our interests, and then react, but not in a way that it is black or white, because this it is full of gray tones. And if you ask what will be the future, well, I wouldn't respond anything because I don't know. I don't think that in this room you and anybody will be saying for sure what is happening, because it is so changing, no? So I think we need to be every time ready to react, adaptable, and unfortunately the size, I mean, there is some also good points on being the small size, no? Because you are quickly, you can quickly change and you can quickly adapt.
Thank you. I would say in the case of Argentina, but to a certain extent, I think that it can be replied in some other countries, that there is a reality in which the world we are living in. First of all, of course, we are more rule takers than rule creators, no? First of all. But that happens to almost every country in the world. I would say that today there are only 2 countries in the world that are able to, with their own behavior, change the world politics. And that's are, of course, the United States of America in the first place, and the People's Republic of China. Then you have a number of 2 or 3 great other very important powers, including India. But the 2 real great powers and superpowers in this world are those 2. But in the case of Argentina, what I was mentioning is that, and in some other countries of the region, is that there is a sort of paradox or a sort of reality in which we belong to a region of the world in which we belong to the Western Hemisphere. We believe in those values that are expressed by the United States of America and most of our countries. We have decided in our region that democracy is not an option. In our region, in the system of the inter-American system, democracy is something that we have decided. Unfortunately, some countries of the region are not democratic today. But the truth is that we decided that in that region of the world. So in terms of, I would say, of politics, in terms of security, in terms of values, we belong to the Western Hemisphere. I'm talking about Argentina, but I think I can talk about other countries. But in terms of trade, in terms of commerce, the reality is that our opportunities are not mainly in the Western Hemisphere, are mainly in Asia, in the Indo-Pacific. For example, in the case of Argentina, our main trade partner is Brazil, number 1. But immediately after is China. For many countries in the region, China is the first trade partner. For us, it's Brazil, but immediately after China. Then you have the United States, you have Europe, if you take Europe as a whole, then you have Chile, for example, and number 5 or 6 is India. Number 7 is Vietnam. So for us, many countries in Asia are our main commercial partners. But there's a sort of paradox, because politically we belong to the Western Hemisphere, but economically it's increasingly more related to Asian countries, some of which have different systems. We share democracy. With other countries, they have a different system that we respect, but they are different. And the last thing I would say is that at the same time, I think that the 21st century in some way is offering a scenario that for Latin American countries might be better than the 20th century. Because in the 20th century, especially in the second half of the 20th century, there was no doubt that the US was the number 1 country in the world. It will still be. But at the same time, there are other powers that are increasing their importance, for example, India, for example, of course, China and many others. So in that case, those economies are much more complementary to Latin American and Caribbean economy. So in that sense, I think it's a century that might be more similar to the 19th century, which was much more positive to a country as Argentina, when the international order was characterized by a system of many great powers. Among the first was, of course, the British Empire. But there were a number of powers in which our economies were very complementary. With the U.S., it's a paradox for us. We are friends with the U.S., we share values with the U.S., we belong to the same area of the world, but the economy of Argentina and the economy of the U.S., it's competitive, it's not complementary. And I think that's common to other countries in the region.
Excellency, if I can, continue that strand of conversation, and this great power contestation and competition, of course, is the reality, as both of you have mentioned, and most countries are having to adjust to it in some way. But I think, particularly in the Western Hemisphere at this point, and in your neighborhood, there is also a certain degree of militarization that is happening. With respect to, for example, what is happening with respect to Venezuela at this point. The issue here is also, and I think Ambassador Angulo talked about this in terms of institutions and multilateralism. Is there inherent capacity in the region, in your geography, to manage some of these challenges that are coming as a region, or is it also going to be one country at a time, or countries responding according to their own national interests, which seems to be the favored moment at this point? Countries are transactional; they are responding to their own interests. There is inherent flexibility in relationships. So when you look at a gathering storm like what is happening around you, do you feel that there is enough institutional capacity there as a region to respond to that, or is it something that is going to be one at a time?
Well, the experience shows that there is not enough, of course, but I think there are two things that you are mentioning. One is the great power competition in the world. How is it affecting the region? Another thing is maybe the region itself, the problems of the region itself. A great power competition is something that we cannot avoid. It's something that exists, and exists for all the countries in the world, even for big powers as India. At the same time, I think that the Latin American countries are trying to avoid to the minimum level the noise of the damage of that situation, and of course they are trying to preserve their relations with certain country that is in conflict with the other big country. But at the same time, there is another paradox because the most important economic relationship in the world today is between them. They are partners. While during the Cold War there was almost non-interaction between the Western world and the Soviet bloc, there was very little interaction between them in terms of economy. Now, today, they are very well related, the US and China. In this other thing that you are mentioning, for example, the case of Venezuela, of course, Venezuela is a country that has a huge domestic problem, but it has, and we adhere to the respect that they have to solve their problems. But also at the same time, there is a regional problem because there are millions of people going out of that country that are going into the borders, for example, to Colombia or Brazil, countries that are very close neighbors. And even we are in the south, we have a lot of Venezuelan people there. In the case of Argentina, we have no problem with the Venezuelan people. We love them. We respect them. We are in debt to them because when our country was in suffering the last military dictatorship, a lot of Argentinians went there. They got a job. They were able to live there because Venezuela was the most democratic country in the world. When I was born in mid 1970s, Venezuela was among Colombia, I think, and Costa Rica. They were the only democracies in the region. All the rest of the countries, we were under military rule. So we have no problem with that with the people. But the government has put himself in a position that they are not a democracy anymore, and many of our countries don't recognize that regime. That's the truth. But they have to solve the problem by themselves.
Ambassador, you want to touch upon that as well as the regional capacities?
Yes, I wanted to maybe say of interest for the audience to know that our region has some particularities, and among those particularities is that, for instance, we declared many years ago the region as a free zone for nuclear testing, for instance, the non-proliferation, the LOLCO. and also we have been trying in the last years, 20 years, of being the declaration of a zone of peace in the region. So if you see the map of the world, many zones of the world have a lot of problems, but one problem that we don't have had, hope that we'll not have anymore, is a conflict between countries in the region. We have had in the past, of course, but since many years there's been a peace zone. That does not say that there are not internal conflicts. Some situations in some countries, in particular, with maybe the government does not control 100% of the territory. These kind of things, but there is no conflict between our countries, and that is something that we need to show to the world, because we have been able to solve our problems in a pacific way, in a no confrontational way, and that is something that it is our asset for us. We, as I mentioned, we would like to, of course, we hope that it will continue. Many of the problems of our countries, actually, I mean, in this time, are linked to instability, provoked by different reasons, but the institutions are not working 100% as they should. Security, for instance, delinquency, narcotraffics, all this crime-related, organized crime, all this go beyond borders, and something happening in one country will affect also other countries, and we need to be able to find these common solutions for problems that are for all the countries. I'm not saying that all the countries are facing the same level of problems, but of course it is present in many of, and also that will explain in a way what the voters have been deciding in the last elections in the country. We are, as was mentioned, a democratic continent. We have had a different election regularly. The next Sunday, the new president of Bolivia will take office. There are elections in Chile in over 2 weeks. Mexico also next year will be some other countries. We have this process, democratic process, which is very good. But we need to emphasize that what do you say? Some people in the societies in our region, maybe not only our region, are questioning democracy, because this system is not responding to the real needs they may have, and that is something that everybody, as a group, we should think what would be the alternative first, and why is this democratic system not responding to expectations that people may have in terms of economic growth, social development, basic needs to be fulfilled, these kind of things. And this is a very healthy exercise, I think.
So just to take off on that, how confident are you that this debate on democracy and institutions will go in a positive way? Because we have seen a certain circularity in the region, where despondency about institutions often leads to a greater authoritarianism. Are you worried that this might be the case, or are you confident that institutional resilience will be able to manage some of this turbulence that you talk about?
I am optimist by nature, so I think yes, institutions will be able to cope with these problems. The danger is that institutions are attacked by different phenomena in the societies, in particular in Latin America. Many people discuss about corruption, for instance, how this corruption will debilitate, will weaken the judicial system, the police, many systems that are supposed to take care of the counters and balances, and they are failing. I am confident that we need to have a stronger institutionality in many countries as the best response to these threats. And we have seen examples that, yes, the response is there. So I hope that we will be able to respond as it is supposed. No, the political the persons who are doing policy and going into the politics should also have this idea in mind. No, I think in many countries it's doing. Yeah.
One question which I think must be on the minds of a lot of people here is about critical minerals, Excellency. I think Latin America and the role that Latin America plays in this particular sector, and the centrality of this sector to global economy as it is evolving, it puts you right at the heart of many of the conversations on this issue. Of course, this also is linked to major power contestation and competition, but this also provides enormous opportunities for the region and for individual countries to make the best from. How confident are you that, unlike in the past when some of this, push for raw materials led to all kinds of negative developments, that this will be managed better and this will lead to greater national resourcefulness and economic sustainability for the region, for the benefit of Latin Americans themselves, but also for the good of the global economy?
Well, my first reflection will be that, of course, it is very positive, as I was mentioning, that in a scenario in which there are a number of great powers that have economies complementarities with us, is positive, of course. And many of our countries have resources that are very valuable by India or China or many Asian countries. For example, in terms of agriculture, Argentina is a very important provider in that for food security to India. The same can be said about Brazil, of course, and other countries. In terms of minerals, for example, Argentina, we have reserves of lithium. There are investments of Indian companies in some provinces or states in the north of Argentina. They are working. There are other countries that have even more mining resources, or at least they have developed more, for example, Peru or Chile or others. So I think that's very positive. At the same time, if I go to a more deep level of reflection, I would say that we should not trust only in natural resources, not because natural resources have it's a coin with two faces. No, when countries trust only in natural resources, they can. We have experienced many times that is. Good for today and maybe problem for tomorrow. But that's not the problem of India. That's the problem of our societies. Societies develop when they are able to manage economies with a higher level of investment, higher level of development, in which they don't just require the extraction and export of natural resources. But in this case, with India, it is absolutely positive. I think that most of the countries of the region have been growing their relationship with India. India is growing so much. You have become the fifth largest economy, or becoming the number 4. You would be number 3 in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, I don't know, 6 years. So India's relationship with our countries, it is going to be more and more important. And that's why it's so important, so positive to have the opportunity to serve here. That's what I feel, and I know that it's what we all feel. The other reflection is maybe more deep about the tendency of relying too much in natural resources. But it's something that is even part of our history, no? Most of our countries, not Brazil, but most of our countries, we are inheritors of the Spanish culture. And Spanish culture and Spanish history is full of, it's a legacy, of a wonderful legacy, but it's also we have to pay attention to that, because the Spanish Empire was the most important country in the world, the most important at certain moment in life. So, and then it decayed. So we have to pay attention to that.
I'll just before this is my last opportunity to ask you before I open this up. But if you can reflect on this issue of critical minerals and lithium triangle and Chile's role, but also briefly touch upon you talked about the CEPA. That is being negotiated with India, Comprehensive Economic Partnership, and how optimistic are you about that concluding soon? Because there is certainly a sense of urgency, at least in New Delhi, to conclude some of these arrangements. And where do you see the problems lie as you move towards the last finishing line?
Thank you very much. Just to comment a little on your previous question, at least in our case, I would like to be clear on that. Of course, raw materials or natural resources are important. We are using them. The thing is that we are trying to add value to the raw materials and not just be extracting raw materials. We would like very much to be part of the global value chains of the vertical of the production from the salt to the finished battery, for instance, recognizing that, of course, we will not produce the batteries and sell the batteries to India, for instance. I'm talking about lithium. The idea is to be part of the process and the hydroxy, and there is many areas of possibilities. So we think that all countries they must, of course, use what nature gave to them. The thing is that to use it in a sustainable way and also in a way that they will increase the level of added value. So we will not export rocks of lithium like that. We would like to have some degree of treatment of that product. The level of the degree of that product is something that we have to discuss, and that for all our fresh fruits is not just fresh fruit. It's fruit treated with some particular sanitary treatments that allow the fruit to travel better. All products we are doing is trying to have added value. In agriculture, for instance, because we are so complementary with India, being in the South Hemisphere, so we have counter season. We have introduced a lot of artificial intelligence methods, for instance, to select packing, artificial intelligence models to forecast demands of particular products. When the products are traveling in a ship, there are sensors there to avoid any excess of moistures that could damage the fruit to create mushrooms. So we need that. We think that the only way to survive in this world is to increase the level of innovation and technology in all our exports basket, and we are doing that. We are doing that, and you can see the prices, the quality is there because of this. What is it behind? So that's concerning the raw materials, huh? And in the CEPA. Of course, we have to be optimistic. So we don't believe in 10,000 rounds of negotiation because it is something that's not going to happen, will not happen. So it is better to use the energy in efforts that will happen. Of course, we have to work harder to give and receive. No commercial agreement that we have signed is 100% winning for Chile. No commercial agreement will be 100% winning for our partner. We have to find a mix between where is a common good solution, and all these commercial agreements have a lot of positive that are coming. It is not only goods. It is also rules for sanitation. It is also rules on services. It is also for expansion of activities that are linked to that. For instance, IT companies providing services for companies that exports, insurance companies. A lot of I will not give all examples because there are many, but these trade agreements are more than just trade agreements. In a way, these FTAs or CEPAs include also close chapters, for instance, for mobility of people, allowing people to go from one place to another, facilitating the visa exchange, facilitating many things. And so we don't see this FTA, despite the name is free trade only, we don't see that as only related to goods. It's also, it's much more than that. As I say to you, our countries are very far away, so we need to use any possibility to increase this people-to-people contact that will create more commerce, will create more trust, more confidence, and at the end of the day, that will help, that will be for the good for all the peoples living there.
Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We talked about from everything from geopolitics, geoeconomics to football and climate change. It was a good repertoire of topics that we touched upon. And I think it also explored, we were also able to do, as part of this roundtable, we were able to also perhaps shed light on how, while we talk of Latin America, there are also enough divergences within the region. There is heterogeneity across the region that we also need to think about more carefully, those of us who observe and engage in international relations and politics. But thank you so much to the two excellencies here and excellencies there in the audience. Thank you so much.